Hey City Church, it's really good to do another one of these morning devotions with you. If you've got a Bible nearby you or your phone, then grab that and have a look at James chapter 1, verses 13 to 18. James is writing to a huge bunch of Christians, and his big theme so far is he wants them to keep on going, encouraging them in that vein. That's why it says in verse 12, he wants them to persevere under trial. So it may seem surprising to us that verses 13 to 15 seem to come out of nowhere, where James starts to talk to them about temptation. However, if we think about it, trial and temptation can often go together, can't they? They're not two separate topics that James kind of flips between. Temptation is something that all Christians face, and often when we go through particularly hard times, that can make our temptation feel even harder and even more difficult to tackle. James doesn't deny that, but he wants us to think about how we're trying to tackle it and where we're directing our focus towards. You know, I'm sure for all of you kind of watching, I'm sure there's a whole range of potential temptations that you might be facing. Maybe for those of you who are working at home, there's that temptation to slack off a little bit, that, well, you know, my boss can't see the work I'm doing. Why should I give 100% to that? Maybe, you know, you kind of spending too much time on social media is your temptation. You're constantly looking for the approval of other people. And perhaps it's that feeling of unsettledness that you can be feeling at this time, that just leaves you just scrambling, just trying to reach for any comfort that you can. Maybe you're looking for it in food and perhaps eating too much. Maybe it's found in pornography. Maybe it's found in drinking too much. Maybe it's found in binge watching telly just to pass the days. Whatever your temptation might be, we might be tempted to blame God for that situation. You know, we might say, well, if I hadn't lost my job or if I hadn't been furloughed, then I wouldn't be in this situation. So it's God's fault. You know, if coronavirus and this lockdown period and all it's brought hadn't happened, then I wouldn't be here in this situation. It's not my fault. But James says clear, God's not to blame, but we are. Let's have a look at what it says in verses 13 and 14. When tempted, no one should say, God is tempting me. For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. But each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. So see, each of us battles that whisper that sin says in our ear. You know, it says, things would actually be better if you did this, or they'd be less painful if you gave yourself this comfort. Temptation is painted like a predator that's stalking its prey. And if we give in to these desires, then they don't go away, but they grow. They come back twice as strong. Have a look at verse 15. Then, after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is full grown, gives birth to death. That's just a really striking and clear picture of the effects of sin, isn't it? That's why James says he doesn't want us to be deceived. He says that in verse 16. In hard times, when we face lots of temptation, so if we're not careful, we can have this subtle blurring God out of the picture. We lose sight of who God is and all the good things that he has done for us. And James is aware of that, so he wants to redirect our attention to how God has been generous to us. Have a look at verses 17 to 18. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. He chose to give us birth through the word of truth, that we might be a kind of first fruits of all he created. You know, those verses are full of rich truth, aren't they, about God? He is in complete control, despite what our circumstances might feel like. He doesn't change or shift like shadows on a sunny day, but we can sit and enjoy and just bask in the goodness that he has given us. And he has given us birth into a new life, all through what Jesus has done for us on the cross. That means that we are now new people. in the passage that we saw, it uses this expression, first fruits. It might not be a word we're familiar with, but it's this picture of a farmer tasting the first crop of their harvest and tasting and seeing that it is good. The new life that we enjoy now as Christian points us forward to the even better and even greater new life that we will enjoy when Jesus comes back. So let me just finish by encouraging you that whatever circumstances or trials or temptations you face today, City Church, remember that you are a new person in Christ. We have His Spirit to help us and to guide us and to live in a way that honours Him. And He has given us every good and perfect gift from God. And we need to trust in His goodness and His dependability today. Have a good day, City Church.